guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. Okay, so you guys, I'm gonna do something today that I have been asked by a lot of people to do, either via email or Twitter or just in the comment section below. And the number one reason I haven't done it yet, you guys, is because I really struggle with the whole concept of like marketing myself. I will mention my book that I've written and books that I'm writing and the videos that I do, but I will never come right out and say, please go buy my book, or I really think you'd like my book, and those kinds of things. And it's interesting because I actually, long before I started my booktube channel 2 years ago when my book came out, it came out 2 years ago, like right now, I reached out to quite a few booktubers and didn't hear back from any of them. So what I know today, with even not having a ton of subscribers, is that people contact me on a regular basis and ask for reviews. So this is by no means me begging for reviews or begging you guys to read my book or purchase my book or anything like that. It's just that a lot of people have asked me, like, how did you write your first book? What happened with the whole process of it? How did it come to be? And so what I thought I would do a little bit here today is I thought I would talk to you guys about how it went from here to these notes to the first chapter and then turning into this, which is actually the first printed hardback copy. And I hated the cover. And we worked so hard on the cover, and I really hated it when it came out. Followed by the paperback, which is, this is what the paperback looks like. And that's me on the back. So, published by Pen Name Press, or Pen Name Publishing. And, you know, the whole idea for a writer to come up with an idea that then just happens to be on some scrap papers to end up like this, where people are messaging you and emailing you and saying, oh my God, I loved your book, or I didn't really care for it, and whatever, because I have to be honest with you, as a writer, quick critical reviews are just as good for me as positive reviews. And, you know, I think that any good writer feels that way. I mean, you never, like, I mean, even today with the book done, there are like so many things I wish I would have done differently. And let me just give you guys an example. Okay, so when we put out the advanced copies and all that kind of stuff, there were a lot of errors in it. We literally, my publisher and I, and the editing process that occurred and all of that is like a very lengthy process for authors, took so long. And finally, when we got down to it, there are still 24 errors in the book. And 24 is a very powerful number to me. I had a client years ago whose baseball number was 24, and it means a lot to his parents. And when that number kind of came to me, it was interesting because I thought, you know, maybe this happened for a reason. Maybe these errors are supposed to exist in my book. And there's actually a line in the book about the Breakfast Club, and I'll let you guys find it if you've read the book, that references mistakes and good coming out of that, and that there are just nuts loose in the world. And so in reference to that quote in the book, I thought, I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to keep the 24 errors in there. And I told my publisher, I said, I don't want you to edit anymore. Leave the errors in there and whatever. And so honestly, sometimes embarrassingly enough, like when I send out the copies that I have, which are really the copies before that, I mention that in there that there are going to be a lot of errors and whatever. And then, you know, people almost in every review are like, there are grammatical errors in there. And not once has anybody commented and said, I think those errors may have been left in there on purpose. So let me just tell you, the remaining 24 errors that are in my book, excuse me, are there for a purpose. I did have a conversation with my publisher, and I said, do not edit the book anymore. I want them left the way that they are. And for me, I thought, you know what? Like, that's part of me being proud of this book. And I know that sounds like a lame excuse, but it's kind of interesting, like, as an, you know, an artist or as a writer, that like how your process kind of happens. And like, if you had asked me a year before that, you know, would you want errors to exist in your book? I would have been like, absolutely not. The other thing that's interesting to me is how many, you know, traditionally published books I find that I know have editors that cost upwards of $1,500 to, you know, $3,000, $5,000 a book to edit it, that still have errors in it. So I'm not the only one. But anyway, so I wanted to do a little conversation about how my book came to be. And then I wanted to read you a little bit of the book. And also, I'm going to leave underneath the book some places you guys can buy it if you want to buy it. It's not an expensive book. And there's also an audio version of it on Audible, which I was so excited because you guys know I love Audible. And I got to be part of the process of picking out the actor that read the voice of Danny, who's the main character. And so that was really cool to me. His name is Matt Hayes. He's an actor in LA. And that whole process was it was awesome. So, and for me, he captured Danny's voice. Even though he's a little bit older, he still captured Danny's voice. And so I was super, super excited about that. And I'm going to link below where you guys can listen to the audio sample of that. So, without further ado, the before, now, and after then, how it got from here to here. Okay, so here's the deal. So, I had written an article that went viral, and it was about marriage equality. And it was just very strange how it had happened on my personal blog. I had somebody reach out to me that I knew that asked me to write how my husband and I were affected. In Indiana at the time was our Governor Pence, vice presidential candidate, had just put forth the Religious Freedom Act, which meant that any businesses could turn you away based on their religious freedom and their beliefs, and just say, well, for my religious freedom, I'm not going to serve you, or I'm not going to sell you a cake or a pizza or whatever. Those were kind of big issues that happened in Indiana. So this girl contacted me, and she was like, she was going to the House of Representatives to speak on. She was on the Republican Party, faith-based Republican Party, in favor of marriage equality. And so she asked me to write her a list of some things that had happened on how my husband and I are affected. It's called Dear Annie. And if you put in Peter Mon, Dear Annie, it'll come up all over the place because it was on the Huffington Post and everything. Probably one of my most proudest moments as a writer, because I really just totally wrote it from my heart. And I talked about how my husband and I are affected when we go to the grocery store, and gym memberships, and all these kinds of things about how people don't take us seriously as a couple. And so as a result of that, I had a friend of mine who's actually in the fashion industry, and she decided to start a publishing company, and she had one other author, and she asked me if I would be interested in writing for her, and she said, listen, you're going to kind of be a guinea pig. I'm not a guinea pig now. She's a very, very well-known boutique publishing company that has award-winning books. One of her books right now is literally like all over the news and everywhere because it's talking about conversion therapy. And she does not just do LGBT things. She does all kinds of things. Publishes them, but she publishes Unique Voices. And she said, but I need a book by a certain date. And it was I think 3 months. Well, I waited and I waited and I waited, and I actually was going to write another book instead. And I was talking to a friend of mine that writes steampunk, and she had 2 books almost done, and I was like, Shell, I don't even know where to go with this. And she was like, why don't you write your coming out story of when you were in high school? Well, I love writing coming out stories, but my coming out story was not super exciting, you guys. My parents were like, okay. And so, but I did have a crush on a guy in high school that I never really got to know very well, and his name was Rusty. And she was the person that knew about that. And I would say I wondered about him. I wouldn't say I had a crush on him. And so this idea spurned about, well, what if I wrote a book about this guy that was very similar to me in high school, that was shy and afraid of his own shadow and didn't really know who he was, and weave in some of my personal life. So many people that read my book say there's so much of your personal life in there, from your dog to your family, and that's true. I mean, there's personal stories in there. And so then I just started writing it, and it was interesting because I wanted to make him have siblings, but not an active part of the story. And something to me the night that I wrote the story said make him a twin. So I made Danny Goldstein, that's his name, an identical twin. And in the opening chapter, you find out what has happened to his twin brother, and why his brother is not an active participant in the book, and why Danny is basically left to fend for himself because he's always hidden in his brother's shadow. And if you go listen to the audio version or read the sample first chapter, you'll find out what happened to Sam, his twin brother. So anyway, and then he goes to a new high school, and of course there's a bully. The book is very anti-bullying and talks about that. And a very cool mom who is sellout punk rocker. I mean, she wears a Fender t-shirt, but amazing diamond earrings and a Rolex watch, and she's very much a sellout. And then a dad who was like a punk rocker band, and then there was an uncle that's gay, a kind of uncle, an uncle friend, a gunkle. And he is a writer, much like David Levithan. I kind of modeled him after. And then there's a best friend named Cher. And people that read this book hate Cher. Everybody hates Cher. I don't know why, but everybody hates Cher. And she was named Cher because her mom is obsessed with Cher. I don't care for Cher as a gay man necessarily. I mean, I like Cher, the singer and actress. I love her more as an actress than as a singer. Gypsies, tramps, and thieves. But I don't necessarily love her, and that's not why I put her in the book. I just thought it'd be kind of campy and fun. You guys, when I wrote this book, I never thought it would be like the bestseller of the world. But I wanted to write something that would be kind of a cheesy love story, but very true to my telling and my history. And one of the number one criticisms it gets is that it's insta-love, and people hate insta-love. Well, I feel sorry for you, because in my life, all I have ever experienced is insta-love. Like, I literally meet somebody, and 5 minutes into the date, I'm either like this: I cannot go 5 more minutes. This date it's not going to go anywhere. Or I'm like literally like, oh my God, we're going to be together for the rest of our lives. So insta-love is very real for me, you guys. In fact, my husband would tell you that within our first week, I told him I was falling in love with him. And he was like, so he used to say to me, like, I would say, I love you. And he would say, thanks for loving me, because he couldn't say it. He wasn't there yet. So I understand that people have different, it pissed me off. I understand that people have different feelings about that, but I wanted to read a book that at 16, 17, I could have read, and I would have related to the love story in it and the things that happen. And I think I did that. I think I achieved that. My next book that I'm writing, which is about a girl that gets out of a treatment center at the very opening of it because she has drug and alcohol problems, and there's a mystery that weaves through the whole book, and she befriends this guy, and they become best friends. And it's kind of their joint misery that they share to some extent. I don't know how, other than that, share. And it takes place in a small town on a college campus. And they're not college students, they're in high school. And she goes to a private school, and he goes to a public school, and they come from very different backgrounds. And it's kind of a mystery coming of age story. So I'm very excited about it. I love this book, you guys. I've listened to the audio. I've cried my eyes out reading this, and maybe it's because it's my story. I will tell you that people either love it or they hate it. I either get like 2 stars or I get 5 stars. I mean, there's really no in between. And so, yeah, I'm very proud of it as my first book. Is it the book that where I want to be today as an author? Absolutely not. But is it the book that I will look back on and be very proud that it was my first book? Absolutely. And I think as an author, that's growth, you know? And hey, I finished a book, so I'm really proud of myself for that, because if you know me, I'm so spastic that I never thought I would finish anything. And the before, now, and after then was actually written in 4 weeks. And it's 289 pages long. So, and I think 78,000 words. And it's available everywhere. And yeah, and you can get it on, let's see, Amazon, iTunes, Kobo. Do you guys use Kobo? Like, Kobo is kind of a cool thing. It's like ebooks, but not a lot of people use it. So check it out, Kobo. You can check my book out. I'll put the link below too. Audible, other things like that. So let me just read you a little bit of the first part of it. I'll read you the dedication because it was very important to me. To all the kids, to all the kids who didn't think they were good enough and the ones who are still hanging on, be brave. Life truly is a sweet experience. And to the real Rusty, wherever you are. And this is a quote from his Uncle Alex. In the end, we're all just one big group of freaks, I guess, trying to find ourselves in this crazy world. And I'll always be that gay boy trying desperately to find my own something to live for, never realizing that those things most important are always right in front of your face. Alex Knight from Suburban Wasteland. February 24th. The scheme was delicious, and we had been planning it for over a month. Sam didn't really think Mom and Dad would care that much that I was gay, but he thought if I were going to come out to them, we needed to cover any bases for potential emotional breakdown. We decided it would be best to break the news right before our birthday dinner, leaving out any possible chance for weeping from our mother. I can't even remember if I ever came out to Sam. He just always knew. I guess it's that way with most twins, knowing something about our counterpart without them ever telling us. The way he was always so protective of me would make you think that he was the older one, but that wasn't the case. I had left him behind in the womb for greater ventures of a new world exactly 18 minutes before he chose to follow me, kicking and screaming as I lay quietly in my father's arms. This grand entrance would set the direction for the rest of our lives. Sam fighting while I sat idly by, living through his adventures and allowing the world to happen to me instead of actually living. So, if you guys want to hear me read more of it, let me know, and maybe I'll do that down the road. So, I hope that tells you a little bit more about my book. It's a love story. It's corny. It's cheesy. It'll make you happy. And, yeah, and it's insta-love. So, if you hate insta-love, you'll hate it. But if you like insta-love and you just like love stories, I think you'll like it. And it's cool. And it's got Venezuelan culture in there, Latino characters, diversity. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. I love you. Bye.